we meet, it almost feels like a wartime government has just been assembled. And we meet here because 1,700 people have lost their lives as a result of a virus that has hit our country. And so I think that should remind us all of the collective endeavour we have to beat this virus and to return the country to some level of normality. You know, politics can be a harsh business. It can be quite personal at times. And I think in that environment, I think what the country needs is to see politics working better. And that's why it's disappointing to hear phrases such as betrayal and even to hear the word hatred being mentioned earlier today. So what my party is trying to do, is trying to achieve, is not to trade in hatred, not to trade in division, but to oppose elements of what government does which we feel is wrong, and to support elements of what the government does which we feel is right. I want to turn the minds of Dáil Éireann today to where we are and to the words of Thomas Johnson, who said over 100 years ago, when he wrote in the first programme of the first Dáil in 1919, "It shall be the first duty of the Government of the Republic to make provision for the physical, mental and spiritual well-being of the children, to ensure that no child should suffer hunger or cold from lack of food, clothing or shelter." We are in the north inner city of Dublin. And the great thing that has liberated those who have been disadvantaged in this country has been education. But what has enslaved disadvantaged communities has been inequality and drugs. Now, this government proposes 2 citizens' assemblies, one on education and one on drugs. And I will say this, and my party will say this. If you are genuinely, radically going to overhaul the education system, if you're going to treat the 17.9% of Irish adults who are functionally illiterate as a scandal, if you're going to realise that 30% of children who leave disadvantaged schools have basic reading problems, if you are to understand that the difference between one 3-year-old and another 3-year-old is 66% in a differential in their oral language capacity, and if you want to tackle all those issues in your education citizens' assembly, then we will work with you and we will support you, because we believe that education is the great liberator. But what has enslaved working-class communities, and the drugs issue goes right throughout this land, is the issue of addiction and the criminalisation of those in addiction. So let's treat the drugs crisis as a health issue, and that we use the resources of the state to tackle the drug gangs and not those who suffer from what they do. So if that is your endeavour, we will disagree on tax, we will disagree on the role of the state, we will disagree on the size of the state, and we will disagree on many things. But if your endeavour is to eradicate educational disadvantage, to eradicate illiteracy, and for a radical change in drug policy, then in those areas you will get agreement from the Labour Party. Because it actually isn't about talking about betrayal or about being hated. It's actually about making politics work for people. And there's so much we can achieve in these houses of the Oireachtas if we put aside the pre-written scripts and actually do something for the people who sent us here.